Yes, yes, yes. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Jump Podcast. Now, if this is your first time, what you been waiting for? You should have been here episodes ago because I've have a lot of great guests, and I have another one today. Now, listen, Jump is not about jumping up and down. Jump is about jumping into your future, jumping into greatness. What is holding you back? I know you're at the line and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I should do this or do that. This is what I'm going to do for you. I bring interesting guests, just like you and me, to the show and talk about what they did, how they did it, how they became fun, what is having fun. But let me ask you this question. You're in business right now. Are you having fun? You're in business, you're an entrepreneur, but is it fun? Are you waking up every day going, oh, I love my job. I love what I do? Or are you waking up every day going, oh, God, it's another day? Well, listen, let's talk about it. And I got the man to talk about it right now. Let's go, Jerry.
Hey, Charles, thanks for having me, man. This is going to be fun.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Florida. And so flip-flops are off and feet are on the earth.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's backtrack a little bit. The little Jerry, born and raised, where are you from?
You know, it's only ironic that you just called me Little Jerry because I am Jerry Jr.
Okay.
And my mother either called me Mr. Sunshine or Little Jerry. And so that was a throwback, Charles, that was unintended, but yet so appropriate. So I grew up just outside Philadelphia. And yes, I am a sports fan. As I tell people, you don't make it out of Philadelphia with all your teeth, being a Dallas Cowboys fan. And so I made it out of Philly with all my teeth. You know, born in a small little suburban town just across the bridge from Philadelphia. You know, what a great, wonderful community to grow up in. And I think it's a good example in your life of community is so important. I think like so many Americans, people around the world, I grew up in a dysfunctional home. My parents got divorced. And so it was so many that took care of me along the way, let me sleep at their house, had me over for dinner, you know, when we were going through those difficult times. And it's why I believe, and my wife, Rachel, and I, when we wrote our own vows, one of the things that we said, because she comes from a divorced home as well, is there's always room for one more at the table. And I think when you bring that mindset of how do we add joy to the world, you change the dynamic. And I loved your lead in thinking about fun, because one of my life goals is to have more fun than anyone else in the world. And for me, you know, I think about fun as the alignment of the vision that you have for life, your values, what your approach is, and your actions. And when you put those things in alignment, then you have fulfillment. And fulfillment to me is the greatest and highest honor that you can give to your life. And so that's really, you know, what I've been chasing my whole life. And it really started in a little hometown called Haddonfield, New Jersey. And I'm grateful for all the people that that helped me along the way. You know, one of the things that really shocks me, Charles, is people who say, oh, self-made person, self-made man, I don't believe in that. I think it's the most self-absorbed, selfish thing you can possibly say. I've done a lot of really fun things in my life, but it's because people poured into me. They invested in me. They loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. And that to me is the whole concept of community and growing together. It's why being on a podcast and a show like this, you know, I might be 2 miles ahead. I might be 2 steps ahead. But if I can help along the way, that is my goal. And so, you know, in the second half of my career, I want to try and positively impact 5 million people over the next 5 years through better business.
Yeah,
And that to me is everything.
That's what you said that I love key in this whole thing, that, you know, you didn't get there on your own. People poured their love and inspiration and helped you on the way to get to this point, because not everybody knows everything. So that's one key thing that I love that you said. But for some reason, I really want to know how you got here. Like, okay, here it is. Ready? Give me your last jobs, all your jobs from like paper route all the way up to where you are now. I'm interested in what type of jobs you had.
Oh man. So it's funny you said this. I just said this yesterday to someone that I subcontracted my brother's paper route from him because I was too young to have a paper route, but yet I was entrepreneurial. And I was like, buddy, you get the paper route. I'll do all the work. I forget exactly what the split was, but you know, that was my first thing. I had a lawn service business. I merged that with another friend of mine who had the lawns across the highway from me. We did that together. Man, I helped run a a soccer retail franchise company. We took that from 5.9 million to 15 million in 18 months. That's when I fell in love with the idea of high growth companies. I went and lived close to you in Toronto, Canada, helped advise a manufacturing company that was up there, came back to the United States, started an e-commerce company that I ran for a number of years. I sold that. I was brought in to run a construction business, which is only funny because the only thing I hammer is my keyboard. My wife hangs all the pictures in the house. And, that one went really well. We went from 7 million to 30 million in about 3.5 years. That's, again, another great high growth story. And, now I've been advising companies that are typically in a growth trajectory. And so, the name of my company is Proven Chaos. You've proven there's a marketplace there, but you're in chaos because your people, your systems, or your process haven't kept pace. And, Charles, what I find is it's the greatest ripoff of life, success without fulfillment. And so on the outside, you see like, oh, they made the Business Journal Fast 50. They're on the Inc. 500. And yet when you speak to the owner, you speak to the entrepreneur, they say, yeah, but I'm not even making it home to have dinner with my family. I don't make it to my kids' sports games. I don't tuck them in I've lost all my hobbies.
Yes.
I don't work out anymore, right? And so I think that's the greatest ripoff. And so bringing conscious intention to your everyday of living your life on your terms, that is what you owe yourself. And I think most people don't do a great job of stopping and thinking about, what's the impact that I want to go make in the world? How do I want people to feel when they're around me? Those are really our values. And then how do I do that consistently day in and day out to make sure that those things are aligned? So your chest puffs out a little bit, you smile a little bit more, you're having more fun. And that to me is everything that you should be doing as a human being.
I just pictured you younger trying to talk to your brother. Okay, let's do this. You do this. I'll give you this percentage. I see you running over to your friends and saying, all right, you take the east side. I'll take the west side.
That's right.
We'll make money. We'll do it. Where did this bug come from? You had to see someone else do it. Like you had to see someone else being that business person and go, oh, I could do it myself.
I didn't have that in my life. My dad was a salesperson. My mom was a paralegal in Center City, Philadelphia, self-educated. She had a 6th grade education. She was one of 13 kids and had to go into the workforce to try and help support her family. Did that successfully, supported our family, amazing self-educated woman. My mom was always nervous when I started my entrepreneurial endeavor. She was just like, man, there's a lot of people counting on you. And I laugh. There's a spot on the road here in Jacksonville. And I had called my mom. We had made the Inc. 500 for the second time. And I was coming around the bend and I was telling her about it. And she said, son, that's really wonderful. Please work hard. There's a lot of people counting on you. And I just kind of chuckled. I was like, imagine if I started working hard, Mom, what we could possibly do. And so, no, I think it was just for me as an adult, it was being in places where I had been in senior leadership. I was comfortable making decisions. The decisions that I made generally were pretty good. They were profitable decisions. And then I looked up and I was like, why am I making other people money? Why am I not doing this for myself?
Yes.
And, I think there's a level of courage that it takes to jump into that. But once you've done it, it's like, why would I let someone make margin on me? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And, some people's temperaments, they're better to be individual contributors. That's great. I had a COO once that looked at me and he said, I love being your number 2. I never aspired to be the number 1. I don't want the pressure of making all of the decisions. And so those are things that you have to just understand. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. It is for me, because when I look and say, here's the type of impact that I want to go make in the world, which is to positively impact 5 million people. I don't know about you, but I've never had anyone show up to work and say, you know what, I really want to suck at work today.
Yeah.
And yet there's lots of people that are very ineffective in their day-to-day work. It's not their fault, Charles. It's our fault as senior leaders. We've done a terrible job of doing what I call the 4 C's, creating clarity for them. Here's how you win. When you go home and your spouse says, hey, did you have a good day at work? They better be able to answer that question. Yet most Americans cannot answer that question when they go home. The second is, they better feel challenged by the work that they're doing. Otherwise, they're going to go find something else to go do. Third is they better feel comfortable that they have the tools, time, and training to be successful, because responsibility without authority or training to understand how to go do it, there's nothing more frustrating than that. And the fourth C, which comes back to us as a senior leader, is do they feel cared about as a human being? Do I know Charles not only just as this incredible employee, but as a spouse, as a father, as a friend, what the hobbies are? And it's amazing what happens when you care about people as whole people. The world changes,
Yes.
right? When you just get into this mindset, my first value is love your people, treat them as whole people. And so when you get people into that mindset of, well, it's not just the workplace that I'm worried about, it's the whole Charles. Because if you're good at work, you have the potential to be great at home. And if you're good at home, you have the potential to be great at work. There's a symbiotic, environment that goes along with that. And so, leaders that just say, oh, like, I just bring your work self, I leave everything else behind. That's all well and good. But, when your accounting manager comes in and lets you know that she's just been diagnosed with breast cancer, that doesn't work, at least not in a world that I feel comfortable, talking about and being, responsible for. And so when you love your people and you treat them as whole people, it's just way easier to run compelling businesses. Compelling businesses always outperform at the end of the day. And so that, to me, is the mindset that you have to bring. And again, like you said, let's have fun doing it.
Yes.
I mean, if we're not having fun, I'll tell you a story. I had the best COO that I ever worked with is Zach Mitchell. And he and I, we were running the construction business together. And there would be times that I would wrestle Zach Mitchell on the production floor, and everyone would be dying laughing. And, he was a little skittish, so I'd like to scare him. I'd pop out from around the corner, and everyone would get a good giggle about it. Now, imagine if your senior leaders are having that much fun doing what they're doing, and yet we can still be serious about our work, but the approach to life, the approach to each other is a lot of love, a lot of respect, and a lot of fun. You get a whole lot more done.
Yeah, amen to that. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your workers are coming into work so happy. Because when they're there,
Totally.
they put out more production. The more production, better for the business. Better for the business, more bonuses. More bonuses, it's a circle.
But it's symbiotic, and yet I share this story. I have a guy that I work with, Matt Kleinrock, and at the end of 2022 in December, he called me and he said, "Buddy, I need your help." And I was like, "What's up, Matt?" And he said, "We have had a tremendous year, the best year we have ever had in our ever history." And he said, "How do I help repay all of my employees and help them participate in the profits of the company?"
Right.
And, that spurred an hour and a half conversation. But it was the best question that I got in 2022, because what happens a lot of times is entrepreneurs say, oh, a rising tide lifts all boats, except when the tide rises, suddenly they're the only boat that lifts in the harbor. And that, to me, is disingenuous.
Yes.
Because, I've run 5 businesses, 5 different industries, business to business, business to consumer, products and services. Here's what I will tell you. People are like, oh, how have you done that? Because I lead people. I've never been the technical leader. The business that I run today is about as close as I've ever been to actually knowing what the heck I'm doing inside of a business. And so when you think about that, leading people is the same across any industry, across any vertical, any B2B, B2C. And so how do you do that in such a way that inspires respect, authenticity, love, and brings all the people along with you? Right. And he had it right. I love and respect Matt Kleinrock, and that was my best question of 2022.
All right. Well, let's have some fun. Here we go. It's now time for a rapid fire. That's right. You're going to give me A, B, C, or D. Those are the questions I'm going to rapid fire at you. But here's the thing. You got 2 minutes on the clock. You can elaborate, but just remember, you got to get through all the questions within 2 minutes. But you get to ask your own questions. What would you like? A, B, C, or D?
I'm a linear guy. A.
All right. 2 minutes starts on the clock when I ask the first question. Here we go. 2 minutes starts now. What is your favorite drink?
Ooh. It would be an IPA, and it's out of Tampa. It's called the Cigar City High Lie.
What are you most productive?
At 4 o'clock in the morning, because there's no one there to bother me, and I'm a morning person. I get lots of clarity and lots of focus, and so I love getting up early. I have my morning routine, and that is my time to shine.
Who inspires you and why?
Ooh, God, there are so many, Charles. I think it comes back to, being humble and saying I'm not a self-made man. I mean, there's been millions of people, Joe Felena, who poured into me, my parents who loved me along the way, my wife who is, I'm cool. My wife is way cooler than me. And so my kids who just demonstrate humility and love and kindness and teach me things every single day. No one person.
All right. Summer or winter?
Oh, summer for sure.
Favorite cake?
I don't eat cake.
What's your favorite number and why?
Number 4 was my brother's baseball number, and I inherited it. And so I took number 4 as my lucky number.
What's happening in your life right now that you're excited about?
The pursuit that I'm on to positively impact 5 million people. I have never worked harder, and I've worked very hard, but I've never worked harder or felt more passionate or inspired.
What subject in school you hated?
Spanish.
What was your best subject in school?
Almost all the other ones. I was a pretty good student.
Last question, real quick, 20 seconds on the clock. When you look in the mirror, what do you see?
I see a humble servant who invests heavily in people. And my goal is that when people show up at my funeral, they tell my kids that they were better for knowing me.
With 4 seconds left on the clock.
Woo! Especially for March Madness. That was a perfect one. I love it.
Don't go nowhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
CMJ Entertainment is a one-stop shop. CMJ Entertainment helps people do any type of events, and it's a marketing tool as well. So we'll cover everything from start to finish. If it's a wedding, we'll make sure your wedding is over the top. And if it's an event, we make sure that everybody gets information at the end of the day. Give us a call at 416-414-8964 or online, go to cmjent.com.
Hey, it's okay if you're driving or too busy to take notes. Charles has your parachute packed with all the info you need to jump into success. Check out the links section for all the tools you need to land safe. Now, let's keep falling with Charles and his special guest.
Yes. We are back live, and we're just having a great time. Okay, couple things you said in there. I got to get in there. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
That's your time.
That's my time. I started outsourcing my programming to India when I had an internet company. I'd catch them at the end of their day, ask them, what did you do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? And what do you need for me to be successful? And then I was like, holy smokes, there's no one up. There's no one interrupting me. The amount of work that I was getting done was incredible. And then I just fell in love with getting up at 4 a.m. My whole morning routine, because I believe that if you win the mind, you win the day. So I prime the pump, reading, writing, thinking, do a little speaking, meditation. All of that gets me to a place where I am bulletproof by the time everyone else is awake, and usually have a couple hours of work underneath my belt by then too.
What time do you go to bed?
9 o'clock. I call it the Sirius 7. And so I'm desperate to try and get 7 hours of sleep on a regular basis. Sometimes it doesn't work out if my wife's like, hey, let's watch a movie. But, we just adjust.
Oh, yeah, because I'm looking at my clock trying to figure out, okay, how many hours is he getting? I'm trying to figure it out.
7 hours, brother. 7 hours.
All right. So here's the main thing. How do you help everybody else, your clients, get to this level? Because it just seems like every day you wake up, it's just a bubble of joy to do your business, to help other people get to your business. Who's your clients? Who you're looking for?
Yeah, so I typically work with companies that are in high growth mode, so about 5 to 12 million, headed to 25 to 50 million. And usually, it's been the entrepreneur who's gotten it to that point, and now the dynamics of the business have changed. So, there's more people in there. The way in which we communicate is changing, the resources, the planning that goes into it. We used to just be able to wing it. And so the dynamics of the business has changed. And so helping shepherd people forward is my favorite part of what it is that I do. So yeah, those are the people that I'm usually working with.
And then how does the process work? Because, you sit down with them, they just come knocking on your door and go, Jerry, help.
I'm humbled to say this, Charles. I have never advertised for a client, and all of my clients have come because, people say, oh, I know this guy, you should probably talk to him. And then suddenly, you're serving 15, 17 companies. And, at some point in time, I probably should start advertising. I do have a website. You're on it, and people do go there and they do read it. But everything that I've done so far is through referral and word of mouth.
Right. Can we listen to more? I see there's podcasts here. Tell us a little bit more about these different podcasts.
Yeah. So, in an effort to try and positively impact 5 million people, I always believe that we're better together. This is why I love coming on podcasts like yours, because again, there's no such thing as a self-made man. If I can help anyone in their journey, I want to go do that. And so I look to interview, CEOs or thought leaders who have been there, done that, had their teeth bashed in, lived to tell about it, and are willing to talk about, here are the problems that I have. Here are the issues that I've had. I mean, I think about the course of my career, and I've certainly had plenty of success. But, Charles, I walked into the first company that I was running, and we were raising $5 million in venture capital. 3 different times I had a $5 million check sitting in the middle of the table. And one day after we had just turned down a $5 million check, our bookkeeper said, I need you. And I said, oh, okay. She said, we can't make payroll. I said, what do you mean we can't make payroll? I said, well, okay, tap the credit line. She said, I have been tapping the credit line. Credit line's tapped. And I went from having a $5 million check in the middle of the table to $1.7 million in debt. And I didn't even realize it. And, as we were going through that and trying to dig our way out of that, I started working 100-hour weeks. I was sleeping on the couch outside of my office. And on Valentine's Day, I thought I was having a heart attack. And I remember being 26 years old and literally counting the dots in the ceiling tile with these electrodes hooked up to me and thinking to myself, what have you done? At what cost has this price of excitement and seeming business success, all of these things, what does it come at? And,
right.
and it was very decidedly my health. And so as we go through all of these things in life, certainly we celebrate the wins along the way, but we also have to be humble to share the losses too. And those were teaching moments for me where, as I've said to many people who are raising venture capital, number one rule is never stop operating the company. Because if you've ever raised venture capital, that can be a job in and of itself.
Right.
And you forget to run the business and your margins erode and people are making decisions because we weren't clear, because people do what they think is the best. And at the end of the day, we ended up having to break up that company and sell it off. But those are the lessons that we learn along the way in trying to help people go forward. Same thing with the podcast, right? People are sharing the lessons of what they've learned in running high growth, best places to work type companies.
What is the one thing in this industry that you find that when people start a business is the number one, oh, don't do that. You've been in the industry a long time and you've seen everybody, they're go-getters. They want to start a business and they do it this way. And if you could be a fly on the wall and just whisper to them, don't do that. What's the one thing?
The one thing very clearly is if you become emotionally or financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, you've missed the mark. You've missed the mark. And so what I see is, especially as people get businesses up and off the ground, they're constantly trading their family time, their self-time, their self-care time for the demands of the business. And so the very first question that I always ask any client who's potentially going to come work with me is, what do you want the business to do for you? We turn the script backwards because of course we're going to serve our business. Of course we're going to do that. We have a financial interest in it. And, we want to see it succeed because we have lots of people in our care. However, if we get to a point where we're resenting the business because it's not giving us back what we need or what we want in the form of financial capital, time with our family, time freedom, the ability to go on vacations. I mean, I've spoken to people, they haven't been on vacation for 10 years. They're working 6 and 7 days a week. And the idea of it being any different for them is not even in their purview. And so I would just share with people, don't fall into the trap of the high achiever. Yes, it all has to get done, but you do not have to do all of the doing. Your job is to resource the doing that needs to get done. And that's the thing that I would tell people, get yourself out of, be really clear about what you want the business to do for you. And then you don't have to do it all.
I find that so funny that you mentioned that. I want to stick a pin in that for a second. We go into business to be financially free, to have more time, to be rich, and to say go on vacations and this and that and this. But then when we get into the business, working 24/7, haven't taken a vacation, haven't spent no time, haven't spent time with your kids, and that's what you wanted in the first place. But like you said, we totally forget about it. I'll put my hand up. I'll put
Me
my
too.
Hand
Me too. I've done it, but I've also learned those lessons to share. Like there's a different way of doing it. And I think sometimes people don't even consider that there's another way to do this. Like, geez, you're making $350,000. Why don't you hire an assistant and make $275,000? Your quality of life isn't really changing, but you could also like offload a ton of stress having an assistant for you. And it's just getting people to get out of this world. Our pastor Joby, he says the words of the devil are more and now.
Yes.
Right. And society tells us, oh my gosh, you got to 5 million. When are you going to get to 10 million?
Yes. Go.
Right. And, I tell people all the time, it doesn't have to be that way. You can have a solid, successful $5 million business. And if that works for you and it aligns with your vision for life, your values, and gives you all of the things that you want, that's what you should go do. And I think where we miss on this, at least what I have seen, I call it the 3 F's. Finances create freedom for fulfillment. And, I had a former client call me, this was 1.5 years ago, and he said, I've just had the best year of my life.
Okay.
I am set up. I never have to work again. All these passive investments. And I'm miserable and I need your help. I don't know why I'm miserable. And I said, well, because you thought the purpose of life was to stack Benjamins into your bank account. And that's not the purpose of life. I'm a capitalist. You should do that. That's a positive thing to do. But that's not the end all be all. And so when you think that stacking Benjamins are the only reason, and then you get there and you have lots of Benjamins, you go, is that all there is? It's like, no. So worked with him, he's very faith-based. And so he made an impact through his church community. And he called me back about 6 months later and he was doing all of these things. He said, this is it. This is what I was supposed to do. I was like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Finances create freedom for fulfillment. What's the impact that you're supposed to go make on the world? And then go do that.
Amen to that. It's funny that, we don't stop and think about it, because it was just 5 years ago. And I said to myself, what is success and rich to me? I'm like, when I see my kids, when I see my family, and we go on little walks or out for breakfast together as a family, tell stupid jokes at the table and just laugh. Not everybody has that. You know what I mean? Not everybody can.
I'll tell you, I have a client, one of my favorite clients to work with. They said to me, we do not want to be the biggest company. Here's what we want to create. We want to create an operationally excellent, stress-free company where our clients love us. And here's what we want to go do. And we put certain parameters in there. And it's a great company. And they had their best year ever, most profitable year ever, most cash in the bank ever. And then we had other things like we want to take 4 simple vacations every year.
Yes.
We have 3 kids. We want to fund their college funds.
Yes.
We're going to do 1 house project every quarter.
Yes.
And so we just defined what success looked like for them. And instead of trying to chase all of this business that was available to us, we got very intentional. And guess what? They've never been happier. Their marriage has never been happier. It's like, this is not hard. And by the way, I have people that are trying to chase to 200 million.
Yeah.
That's cool too, right?
Yep.
It's all about what you want to do And it's got to come from you. It can't come from society or the outside. And that's where people get themselves in trouble. Like, oh, well, I should be doing this. It's like, no, not unless you want to. And if you want to, then great. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the resources and what we need to go make that happen, because we can go make that happen. But it's when you don't really have an authentic will to go do that, and that the cost you're paying is greater than the price you're receiving back. That's when the balance gets messed up and you start to resent your business.
Just letting you know, everybody, sports car can't love you back. All right.
I will tell you this, right? We talked about giving up our families. My wife always keeps me humble. I said she's so inspiring. So I was being recognized as an ultimate CEO, and there I am at the kitchen table, and I'm scratching out some notes on a note card, and we were talking about it at breakfast. She said, honey, the business can never love you back like your family will. Yeah. Like, man, took that note card, tore it up, said start again, and that is how I ended, the speech that I was able to give. And all high achievers in the room, all people who had achieved significant success, all the CEOs. And, people came up to me afterward. They were like, thank you for the reminder. My business can never love me back. I have to get home for dinner more often. I have to get to my son's baseball game. And, I tell people all the time, my greatest achievement running an Inc. 500 company 2 years in a row that went from 7 to 30 million is I never once was late for picking my daughter up. I never had to call daycare and say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit late. Yeah. My wife was running a genetics laboratory, and she traveled a whole lot that year. And I made sure that every damn day I was there, and I picked Brooklyn up, and she was never the last one there. And everyone knew Jerry was out the door by 5:15, because that's, getting down JTV. That's what we got to do. I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you from the car.
I'm driving. I can talk to you, but I got to go.
but at the end of the day, that's what it looked like.
All right, let's go.
Now time for Pick 3.
It's now time for Pick 3. We're going to have some fun. Before we let you go, you get to choose your last 3 questions before we end this interview. So give me 3 numbers between 1 and 13, and those will be the last 3 questions I ask you before we let you go.
Number 4, because it's my favorite number.
Number 4, what else?
Number 18, because that was my soccer number.
Okay.
And it was 1 through 13, was it?
Yeah, I was going to give you 13 on that one. I got 18 on here.
I was just thinking my favorite numbers.
I got 18 on here. I'm going to give you 18. I got it. I can give you some.
And number 1, because I'm pretty competitive. I like to be number 1.
All right. All right. So we'll start with number 1 first. What is one thing that you wish before getting into this business?
One thing that I wish I knew before getting into business. I think the term is overused, balance. I don't really believe in balance. I think you're always out of round at some point in time. You're having to pour more into one place or the other. So don't buy into the myth of balance. Know that you're going to have to overinvest in certain areas to create success. And, the idea is to just be intentional about how you're moving those blocks around.
Nice. Okay. What is 3 industry books, TV shows that that really pushes you?
So I'm a big book reader. You can't see over here my bookshelf. So I used to say everyone should read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think the world would be a better place. I also would pair that with The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because I think those 2 things together create a whole person that is awesome. And I've since replaced that, Charles, with The Book of Joy, which is the conversation between the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu about what the pillars of joy and a good, fulfilled life look like. And it was something that really identified with me, because I think about things in legacy. And to me, legacy is, we leave stories behind in other people and they get to tell our stories. It's fairly rude because we don't get to participate, but we have to leave them the clues while we're here of what they're going to say about you and me when we're long dead.
All right, here we go. What do most people misunderstand about you?
Ooh. The feedback that I get, which I constantly think is hysterical, is that I'm intimidating. And I'm like, I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Like one of my life goals is that to be the nicest guy you'll meet. And so I think it's the combination of my confidence and my decisiveness that lead me to a place of just a real focus in what it is that I'm doing. And so for some people, that's a little intimidating.
And confidence is intimidating.
Yes, I think you're right.
All right, that was the last one, but I'm having too much fun with you, so I'm throwing in a bonus one on my own. Okay,
love it.
Here we go. Last one before we go, because I could tell you must have been a fun kid growing up. Give me one favorite childhood memory before we let you go.
Oh, one favorite childhood memory. So this is a story, of places where we've made mistakes. I was in third grade. I was with a handful of kids on spring break over Easter break, and we started a 3-alarm fire. And, we tried to be the heroes as if we happened upon the fire and that we were trying to put it out when, in fact, we were the ones that actually started it. And you want to talk about scared straight. I'm a kid that was pretty much Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. And I just thought, man, I don't want that to ever happen again. And so that's one of my childhood memories that I think about. Yeah, I still have visions. It doesn't happen quite as often at 48, but I still have visions of the side of Radnor Field just burning. Thinking, shit, I was part of doing that. That was me. And I remember showing up to my brother's baseball games, and like the side of Radnor Field into the outfield was all burned. I was like, oh, that was the Macnamara kid.
I wonder how that happened.
Thank goodness no one was hurt, and no other than grass, no real property was damaged.
Okay, on that note, I guess we understand now why there's a fire underneath you every time you want to get into business. There we go. It explains everything.
Absolutely. I love that tie-in.
Jerry, my friend, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of really good laughs, which align with having more fun than anyone else.
Listen, everybody, what's your fire? Do you need to set a fire underneath you to get the job done? It's time for you to jump. Let's go, everybody. It's time to get on track. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes